Riley.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I always welcome the opportunity to debate Scottish education in a constructive spirit, but I must begin today by reflecting on the unremitting negative approach of this motion from the Tories. There is such a lack of acknowledgement of the excellent work done by teachers and the incredible achievements of pupils around the country, or the international standing of our further and higher education institutions. One must assume that the goal of such a motion as this is not to improve but to undermine, not to support and sustain but to insult and injure. And I'd like to quote Mr Kerr. As recently as the 7th of November, Stephen Kerr said in this very chamber, and I quote, that we have one of the best educated populations in the world. He went on to say, we have always been at the forefront of innovation and development. Surely that is a result of Scottish Government policy. So looking at the tone, amongst other things, looking at the tone of Mr Kerr's motion, I can say that I'm not angry about it, but I am very, very disappointed. Education in Scotland, I'm going to crack on for a little bit. Education in Scotland and the UK is facing huge challenges. Challenges that have been made worse by soaring inequalities and continuing effect of the pandemic, the appalling state of the UK economy and the devastating effect of inflation on Scottish Government budgets. Now, no government can or should evade responsibility for delivering for its citizens. But to ignore the context that government is operating in, or the success that is being achieved in the face of it, is to me unacceptable. Now, the OECD values the Scottish education system highly, describing the curriculum for excellence as a holistic, coherent, future-orientated approach to learning, and other countries are adopting this style and approach because of the value that it delivers. And we must also remember that exam pass rates across the board have increased this year compared with the last year's exam diets of 2019, including A-grade passes. Skills-based qualifications are close to the highest ever figure. Positive destinations of school leavers stand at 93.2%. And 9 out of 10 head teachers agree that improvements have been made in closing the poverty-related attainment gap, despite the impact of the pandemic. I will give way.
Michael Maher.
I thank the member for giving way. And she rightly cites the challenges of the pandemic, to which I don't believe there's been any kind of coherent response from the government. But would she recognise that the long-term decline in PISA outcomes for reading, mathematics and science that Scotland has faced under this government for a decade?
Kaukab Stewart.
I would recognise that the poverty-related attainment gap is incredibly stubborn, and it requires measures that look at poverty as a whole, looking at social policy and health policy, working with education. Now, I make no apology for listing policies that the Scottish Government has implemented to mitigate the effects of Tory austerity on education. I will continue. Attainment challenge funding of over £1 billion over this Parliament, 1140 hours of quality early learning and childcare, rolling out digital devices for every school child, expanding free school meal provision, increasing school clothing grants and investing in the school estate. On the day this year's exam results were published, I read a tweet from my colleague Michael Maher, who wrote, "Congratulations to all young people receiving results today. Whether celebrating or slightly down at heart, please know that there are endless possibilities out there for you." He went on then to say, "Your achievements are also masking real problems in our education system." Now, I would suggest that young people's achievements, far from masking problems, reflect their own efforts, the quality of our education system and all those who work within it. And I would further suggest, in response to Mr Maher, that the endless possibilities he refers to reflect the Scottish Government's commitment to make higher education free for young people, to support our colleges sector, to deliver foundation and modern apprenticeships. I will give way.
I appreciate the member giving way. Does you not recognise then that actually the young people who are making those, achieving those qualifications do so in the context of a decline in the number of teachers under this government, a compression in the number of subjects that they can choose in their schools, and the huge impact that the pandemic is having over that period as well. That is the context I was talking about, and the challenge in Scottish education policy to which this government refuses to rise.
That was quite a long intervention. Kaukab, Stewart.
Well, that we have the highest level of teachers that we have had for many years, since at least 2019, I believe. Now, in turning to higher and further education sector, I'm going to carry on. Presiding officer, I will continue in the face of hearing.
On the basis that the previous speaker was 45 seconds over, I will give you the same courtesy. So you have 45 extra seconds. Thank you.
I am very grateful for that, presiding officer. In 2020, the University of Glasgow was named the Times Higher Education University of the Year. It is currently in the top 100 in both the Times Higher Education and Quacquarelli-Symonds rankings, world rankings. This year, the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, also in my constituency, was also ranked as one of the world's top destinations to study the performing arts on the similar rankings. It came 5th out of 15,000 university programmes at over 1,500 universities. Also, the City of College Glasgow has retained STEM assured status for the next 3 years, having once again met and exceeded the UK STEM Foundation's rigorous accreditation